Well, everybody's continually searching for love, and it manifests itself in many strange ways. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, basically, because I want love from all those people, but that's just the way it goes.
I have quite a few videos, if you look on my channel, on how to convert a tub to a shower. In fact, there's a whole list. If you go to my main channel, scroll down to the bottom, you're going to see one subsection of my channel that all it is how to convert a tub to a shower. But I continue to post these because every one is a little different. This shower is built, or this bathroom was built in 1959, I believe, 58, 59, so it's an older type style setup. This is 4x4 ceramic tile, builder's grade, and it stood the test of time, but for a couple of reasons. One is because when they did have issues with both the tub and the grout, they just painted it, and now as you see, the paint is chipping off. The paint is chipping off everywhere, so it definitely needs some work on it. And we're going to get rid of this tub altogether, cast iron tub. These walls, no doubt, you can't see them through this wall, but when I start the demo process, this is going to be all concrete type setup. So it's got lathing behind there. The way they did it back in the day, they just put lathing, they put mud on the wall, screeded out the mud, and then put tile on top of that. Very, very antiquated, very difficult way to do things. But on the other hand, it was very solid and it did last, and that's why you're not seeing a lot of issues going on with grout popping out. Although, as I said before, they painted over this, so eventually this paint is going to go away, chip off, and it's going to look like crap. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. This is day one. This tile retroactively got put down on here. More than likely, this floor is original. What they did back in the 50s, they had wood slats that usually went at an angle. On top of the wood slats, they put tar paper, then they put a wire mesh, then they put concrete, then they put tile. So the buildup on here is probably an inch and a half thick. And so at some point they put tile on top of the tile. I'm almost sure of it. This type of tile has this little lip going on, and the lip usually matches up with the floor tile. And there's a gap here, I can feel it on this tile. So more than likely they just set this tile on top of the old tile, which means all this material has to come up. Once all that comes up, then I'll put plywood on top of that, put Durarock on top so that I'll have a surface to tile on. This vanity will go away. Toilet will stay. For the time being, I'll take it out, put it back afterward, but the vanity is going to go. There's going to be a freestanding vanity. All this tile is going to go, and we're going to put beadboard where this used to be. So once this tile is gone, I'll put green board up there, and the beadboard with a trim going across the top will go on there. And that's what I anticipate happening. This is going to be a 12 by 24 tile. I think it's going up to the ceiling. There's going to be what I call the chair rail type trim. It's going to go on the side here, on the side over here. There's going to be a niche on the back. It's going to have some rope. It's going to have some pencil that trims it out. 2 by 2 tile on the floor. That 2 by 2 tile will also go inside of a niche. And I think there's going to be a border. So above the niche, I think one tile up, somewhere around here, there's going to be a border with, again, the pencil, the border material, which will be mosaic, and then a pencil on top of that will be, I think, the 5th tile up. And that will be it. Tub to shower conversions are relatively easy. This one won't be. The building process and everything, taking all this stuff out, is because it's so antiquated, because everything is so old. It's a little more difficult doing something like this than, say, a 10-year-old house or a 20-year-old house. When you get into the age of these houses, the process of taking all this stuff out is very, very labor intensive. So once all this stuff comes out, the build back process can begin, and it'll be a lot better, more functional, and newer than what we have now. And so if I see stuff along the way, I will definitely make note of that and put it on video so that you can kind of hopefully learn from some of this stuff and do your own tub to shower conversion if you feel like it, or just for the information, so that if you're having one done, you can kind of see the process the way I do it anyway. So as I told you before on the previous video, this is exactly the makeup that I was kind of fearful of, but I already knew it based on the age of the house. Back in the day, they did tar paper, put the tar paper first, so that when they put the wire mesh on, that they put this wet mortar on, it wouldn't go through into the wall. So the tar paper went first, wire mesh second, and then they screeded out all this mortar. It's just absolutely crazy thick. Look how thick it is on the wall. It's just ridiculous. It's 1.5 inches thick, where they just, I mean, they were definite craftsmen. I'm not taking that from them, but you know, the amount of material in here is probably in excess of 800 pounds, including the floor. As I also mentioned in the other video, now that the vanity's gone, you can see, as I already suspected, they never took up the old floor. So this is that little curvature that I was telling you about, and that's why I knew when I showed you over there that they hadn't taken up the old floor. So below here, it's the same process. There's slat board that goes in an angle up under here, tar paper, wire mesh, this much of concrete, and then the tile finally is on top of here. And you know, for being as old as it is, over 50 years old, there's really nothing wrong with the tile. There's no cracking, there's no anything going on. So I'm not saying that it wasn't absolutely great work back then. I'm just saying it was a lot of work, and obviously it's a lot of work to take it out. So normally what I do is I'll take a circular saw. This is all the same makeup under here. This is very thick wall. Again, you don't want to mess with that. So I take a circular saw and I cut myself a line on the perimeter. When I get to the corners, I use a sawzall and I cut out the corners, same as I did up on the shower. Just cut out a perimeter around the tile. There's no point taking all this stuff out. This is very thick also, so the 1/2 inch board won't cut it once I start retroactively putting everything back. If you have a lot of extra energy, you're going to need it, because this tub weighs in excess of 300 pounds, probably right at about 300, 275, 250, but you're never going to get this tub out in one piece. I used to, many years ago, when I had more strength. It would take 2 or 3 grown men to actually pull this tub out and up on its side and get it on a hand truck and out the door. So I don't even bother with that anymore. These cast iron tubs bust up fairly easily. I have a couple other videos where I show how to do that, and I'm not going to show it here. I'll just do a very brief demo. That's a bigger 4-pound sledgehammer, and it's got a short handle. If you got a longer handle, you're a little better off. And as you see already here, I started on the inside. This piece is the skirt part, which I already took off. So the next day I am back again. I put in this flooring. So the flooring is basically 5/8 plywood, CDX, which is construction grade plywood. Doesn't have to be fancy. It actually matched up with the 3/4 slat boards there. So this is actually, if you remember, I don't know if I even showed it, but this is above. These slat boards were above these floor joists that were down here. So they married up really good. In fact, they ended up flush with each other, which is kind of what I intended when I put these boards down. You notice over here there's thin set. The thin set is not really needed. I fill in all the excess little cracks with the thin set where there's gaps along here, and there's one there obviously. The reason I do the thin set is because there's so many cracks in here. This is an older house, so it's kind of an insulation type of thing. I don't know, tilers are crack fillers, and where we see a crack we always want to fill it in, so that's why I did that. I didn't do it so much in here. I did a couple of spots in here. There was a gap in there that I filled in with 2 layers of wood, and that filled that in, but then I also tapered off the top of it with some thin set. So what else could I tell you about this? The drain is up, the curb is in. What I'm going to do next is put in 1/2-inch Durock on top of this, so that I'll have, you know, more of a smooth surface other than these slat boards, which are kind of uneven and cockeyed and stuff like that. So once I nail that down, I'll have a better surface for my pan liner, and then my pan liner will go and wrap around. Before that happens, I'm going to get to this floor also. This is getting Durock, but as I built this floor up, you'll notice there's about 3/4 of a gap going on before you get to the wood floor. So even though they put this little transition strip and it gives me, you know, a little bit more room, another 1/4 inch, I don't want to be flush with that. I would like to be flush with the flooring, the wood flooring. So I already know that my tile is about 1/4 inch, and I've got thin set, so I cannot use the 1/2-inch Durock that I bought. So I'm going to go back and take that, exchange it for 1/4 inch Durock. So the 1/4 inch Durock and the tile and the thin set will get it flush with this outside floor, and then we'll end up using a different transition for that. And that's basically it. Once the floor is down here, I can put my pan liner in. I can pour the pan after I scab in my 2x6s along here. I'm going to change the fixture out, put the new fixture in, and I need a stud in the middle, but this is a little complicated here. So I don't know why they put a 2x6 here to hold up a shower head, but then they put another 2x6 up there, so I had to manipulate that a little bit to bump up the shower head is the reason why that I set the other board on top. So anyway, once I get my shower fixture in, put my liner in, pour my pan, that needs to dry. And while that's drying for the next couple of days, tomorrow I'll start putting my wallboard up, and I'll start figuring out what I need to fur out, as I showed you yesterday. This is one of the reasons I hate this old construction stuff. So I'm going to end up furring out these studs, as I said before, to get the bump out that I need. And that slows things down because I got to do the whole bathroom that way. I can't get away with just doing the shower. So it is what it is, and I'm going to continue on. If any of this stuff helps you, it's kind of the reason I'm doing this video. I'm not focusing in on one particular thing. I have a lot of videos on my channel. If you go to my channel, you will see how to do a shower pan. You will see how to pour it, how to do the shower fixture. I think have I ever done one? I don't know. Changing out the shower fixture valve. I already show how to put Durock down. I show a lot of this stuff already, so I'm not really focusing in on one particular thing in this video. I'm focusing on kind of, as I said, the tear out portion, which you saw part of, and then the build back process as these little things get done. For any DIYers that want to attempt this stuff, I guess is why I'm kind of focusing on these smaller things as opposed to the more complicated things. So going forward on this project, about ready to set the shower pan liner. As I mentioned already in the previous little section, the plumbing part has been done, the drain is in, the flange is at the bottom of this Durock that I set down so that the surface of these slat boards would be smooth, and you can see how many nails I put in there. So it's stable, it's solid, it's not going anywhere. Then from underneath I went ahead and set my drain liner. The clamping ring is still on it, but that'll get removed when I put my pan liner material down. This is the 5/8 strips that I stuck in between these furring strips, and they're flush. So lucky me, I'm able to get my pan liner up on a solid surface all the way around. It's putting these blocks in here, I did years and years ago before I even saw people do them. It just made sense that I had my pan liner resting up against something. So if you did not do these, like, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but I just like to do them. And if I didn't do them along here, if all I did is attach my pan liner and had a little bit of bow of the pan liner in between these furring strips, the world would not end. It would not really matter, but I still am focused on trying to do things same way all the way every time. Even in this situation where there's something weird going on, as you can see, I even used it on this side so that I do have something for my pan liner. And this side, actually, the pan liner would probably bow up to those pipes. So anyway, without going too much further, that's just showing the methods that I use. If you extrapolate any of the information that I'm showing you, as far as these little tricks go, then great, and hope it helped you. There's also a board up here. I clamp my shower valve. I'll clamp this to this 2x4 once I nail that in. I don't know where I'm going to nail it in because I have a couple of pieces of wallboard I have to put up in here to make the thickness of this, and until that happens, I don't know where this will be anchored to. But know something, most shower valves with these mud caps, this is the outside parameter of a finished tile wall. This is the maximum you can go with your finished tile. This is a minimum you can go with your finished tile. So anywhere in between is fine. I usually max out. So if my wallboard ends up taking me to, say, this spot over here, then I'll anchor it down, and then my tile and my thin set will take up the difference. So another little trick that you can learn. Yes, this is brand new setup because as it was before, it's not center with the drain, so I bumped it over a couple inches and I bumped it up a couple inches. And this isn't through and through, this is actually a cap, there's nothing in there. All that's used for is so I can wrap my wallboard around, know where the hole is at for my shower head, and I have to kind of guess on it, so that's why that's there. What else did I do? Well, the Durock is on the floor, yes. So I plumbed in the sink, and I used the same kind of stuff that they had there already. I don't like the iron pipe, but it was there already, so I wasn't going to make it new, but I did put in new valves. You can see the quarter turn valves. And it's not anchored right now. I took it off of the boards that anchored it because I still have to run my drain line, and we're dealing with copper here that goes to the cast iron pipe. And the copper, the transition to the copper to the PVC, I have to put a boot on there and make that transition. So you can see I got my slope going on. Eventually there'll be a 90 going up to about this level and then out for my drain. That's where I'm at. So the next process in building the shower specifically is putting the pan in, and the liner, pan liner, if you will. I get a lot of questions because I have, I think, 1 or 2 videos that I think the title is, how to set a pan liner, and a couple of comments on there, people have said, oh, this is a ripoff, you didn't show how to put the liner in. So, again, there's other YouTubers out there that do videos that are more how-to, I suppose, than mine is. If you can extrapolate information from my videos, that's great, and I do have a lot of how-to videos, but if I'm not showing specifically what you're asking for, what you're looking for, then my apologies. It's just that I don't have the possibility of setting up my camera on a tripod, as some people suggested that I do, and make sure that I have enough cards, let the video run as I'm working. I can't do that. Well, I probably can, but I'm not going to. So you can go to other channels, and you know who they are for those type of tutorials that they speed through, and that apparently a lot of people like to watch. But I will explain, and I do have, and I will link below, how to set an OD drain, which is part and parcel to the pan liner. So basically where the drain comes up, if I could explain it really quickly, I do a little cut in the center, and then I put my bottom locking flange down with the holes cut out for the bolts, and then I push my bolts through. I don't do the hole first and then put my pan liner over the head of the bolt. I think that stretches out the pan liner, just my opinion. So I'd rather do it the other way, where I cut the hole and I push my bolt through the neck of the bolt, as it were, as opposed to the head of the bolt. Once I've set that, then I go ahead and screw in my drain, and I get it, I don't know, probably, I've never measured it, probably about 1.5 to 2 inches off the bottom here. And then I'm set. As far as putting the pan liner in, you kind of see how it's done. There's a rule of thumb that your pan liner should go up above your curb. So the curb is generally 3 2x4s, and it's not really 2x4, it's 1.5 inches. So 1.5 inches times 3, 4.5 inches going up. So if you're 4.5 inches here, it should be at least 5 inches, but I wouldn't push it. I usually go 6 inches or 7 inches. In this case, I did a 5 foot width of pan, so I had a lot of extra liner that I was able to put up here, and this goes up probably 12 inches or better, which is okay. If you have more going up, it doesn't hurt you. You just don't want less. Each one of these lines are 6 inches, and so at the minimum you should be at that line when everything's said and done. And then over in the back I've got quite a bit more, but that's okay. I had a 7 foot length, and so I knew this would be longer, and it doesn't hurt it to go up that high. So for some of you who are questioning about how I set the pan liner in the corners, there are some that will actually notch out the 2 2x4s, and in this case we got a furring strip and not a 2x4, so it would be impossible to do that way anyway, but they notch out here. They stick the excess liner inside of that groove that they cut out on both sides, and I have never been one to do something like that. If there's already a notch out, if there's already a gap there, then sometimes I will do that, but I don't like my pan liner kind of just loosely inside of there. It's just kind of one of those quirky things about how I do pan liners. So as you see, I just do a fold on itself, and when I do my fold, then I replicate it on the same wall. I don't just willy-nilly do a fold over here. If it's over here, then I replicate it on the same wall over there. So all 4 of these areas are folded on themselves, as you can see. So that's kind of the way I do it. People have asked me about the bump out, because once you do a fold, you got this little bump out going on here. But honestly, when you put your wallboard on here, it pretty much pushes this pan liner against the wall. So your bump out over here is going to be minuscule at best. And then as you trowel out your thin set and you're doing your tile and all that stuff, it's a little less thin set that's going to be used on both that corner and this corner than it would in the middle. I've never really given it much thought. I just run with it however it works out, and I know some people have questions about that, so I hope I answered that. The bump outs don't matter to me, I guess, is the end result, because again, the board is relatively pliable and I just use more thin set. Man, I over explain stuff sometimes because I don't know what people know when they're watching my videos. I don't know what they know, what they don't know. The curb needs to be wrapped, and that's why you want an extra wide piece. I wouldn't go, this is about 32 inches here, and a 3 foot piece would only give me 36. 4 foot would only give me slightly more, barely wrap over the curb, so that's why I went with a 5 foot width, so that I can go over the curb down to the bottom, and then the excess I just cut off from the bottom. So hopefully that answers that. The next process is my mortar mix. This mortar mix is from Home Depot, but they don't have the old type that I'm used to. So now this will be my first time using this. And generally speaking, on a tub to shower conversion like I'm doing now, I go through about 4 bags. It really depends on how wide the shower is. Sometimes it's 3 bags, and again, I can manipulate my drain neck if I want to. If I end up going to the point where I've almost got enough to fill it, but my drain top is a little too high, then I just turn it down slightly until I get it down to the point I want it with the mortar. So I have 3 bags ready, but I have a 4th bag on standby in the garage, so if I need that, I can bring that in and finish out the job. Always, always, always get more than you need, because it would be a bad thing to get involved in doing one of these pans, having not enough mortar, and then having this take, you know, 30 minutes or 60 minutes out of your day to go to Home Depot. And then what would really suck is if they're closed, or, you know, whatever the case is. So always have more than you need. You can always take stuff back as opposed to running out. So anyway, I do it with a hoe and a shovel and mix it all together and get it, you know, to the point where you can pack it in your hand. I set it in there. I have other videos on how to put the mortar mix in. I'll probably link that also below. And then I just kind of screed it out to the point where I have a nice slope, profound slope also. Understand that the 1/4 inch per foot that people tell you all the time is the minimum that you want to be. It's a plumbing thing. It's a plumbing code where, for example, you have plumbing and you need that 1/4 inch cant so that all your water flows down correctly. But that's free water. That's not hindered by anything. In here, you're hindered. So that little 1/4 inch that we're talking about is the minimum. I usually go, again, I've never measured it, but I make it profound enough that when I set my tile on there, I know I'm going to have positive water flow going to the drain. You don't want to get in a situation where you have water pooling. So anyway, I've talked too long already. I'm going to get started working on this, and I will be back to show the rest of the process. It is the next day. The shower pan has been poured. That's always a misnomer. People like, how do you pour a pan? Well, I call it pouring. It's mainly just slopping it in, and once it's slopped in, you want to pack it down so you don't want any air pockets and stuff like that. And then you screed it out to the point where you have a nice slope going all directions. Speaking of which, that's what these little lines are. People think I have some type of tool or something that I use to make these lines, and that's not the case. That's actually my level. So I put my level on 8 sides, in every direction that I can to make sure that I have the pitch is correct. Not only that the pitch is correct, but when my level sets on it, I can tell from the bottom of the level if there's a gap or a hump or anything like that, and then I can screed it out appropriately. I also do it on the front of the curb. I do it on the back for sure, and I do it on the front, so that's what all those lines are for. Most tilers want to now set their tile straight flush to the drain edge, and I don't do that. I don't want there ever to be a possibility of water pooling around. If for whatever reason this pan drops or they're settling or whatever, I don't want water to pool. So I set my tile slightly above the drain lip right here, and then each one of my tile going around it gets a little taper cut all the way around so that I have positive water flow going into the drain as opposed to flush with the drain. So that's the reason there is that large gap there. What else? Oh, so in the end, you can't get this absolutely perfect because you're kind of eyeballing everything. So in the end, I used like a 12-inch blade, 14-inch blade, doesn't really matter, and I scrape off any high spots. So at this point, there's little areas like this that need to be scraped off, and you can do that the day after. So I scrape everything off, and then I put levels back on it and see if there's any dips. If there's any dips, then what I normally do is add some thin set. You can't go backwards and add mortar to it, but I'll add a little thin set if there's a slight dip or something like that I missed somehow. Then I'll put some thin set on it and make it as flat as possible. That's kind of how you get it to the point of somewhat perfection, so that when you put your tile on, it's nice and easy to do. I mean, that's the end result is, yes, you want to slope, that's the main thing, but you also want to make it easy to put your tile down so that you don't have this buildup of thin set and trying to push these little 2x2 tile down into the thin set. That's the point, I guess. So any dips that you have, you want to take care of and address before you start doing the tiling. So that's basically it, without going into a lot more detail. A lot of what I'm showing on this video is little how-to tips, not necessarily how to do things, but little tips and stuff like that. As you move along on your project, as I said before, time and time on every little clip I've done, if any of this stuff helps you, that's kind of the point. If it doesn't help you and it's redundant, then I apologize for my redundancy. But the next step is the wall board. So I'm going to put the wall board up on all of these walls. I will get to that when I'm finished. I'm not going to show the process, but obviously when everything is said and done, I will show you that the red guard will follow the wall board. The red guard will go on all of the wall board, and including the pan and the curb and everywhere.